exactly is the Day of the Dead?
Where exactly is the Day of the Dead? It's a day to honor the loved ones that have died. You go to the cemetery and you have lunch with them.
Get out of here.
Candyman.
With Baron Samedi just being released as a playable god in Smite, now seems like a perfect time to discuss some Haitian and voodoo myth. Now for those of you much like myself who may be unfamiliar, voodoo was believed to have originated in French slave colonies in the 18th century. These slave colonies were forced to convert to Christianity and had many of their own religious beliefs and practices suppressed. As a result of this, voodoo became a mixture of everything, embracing elements from the Yoruba and Bakongo in Africa, while also incorporating the idea of European spirituality, even being influenced by Freemasonry and European mysticism. So now we can move on to the bulk of the video discussing the Baron himself. Baron Samedi is just one of the many loa of Haitian voodoo, the loa being spirit-like deities, but rather than them being worshipped or prayed to, they are instead served. These loa all have their own unique identities, their own preferences, likes and dislikes. They have different symbols, different songs, dances and rituals, and quite often they possess human beings as a means of acquiring a physical body. They aren't, however, always referred to as literal deities, like we see in Greek, Roman or Egyptian myth. Instead, they are spirits, messengers to the supreme creator in the eyes of voodooists, the unknowable good god, Bondi. Baron Samedi, whose name in French means Baron Saturday, was considered the loa of the dead, along with his many incarnations, Baron Cimetière, Baron Lacroix, and Baron Criminel. Fortunately for those of you watching this video who are indeed French, that is the first and last time I'll be attempting a French accent in this video. The Baron was considered the head of the Ghede family, who were a group of spirits that embodied the powers of death and fertility. Interestingly enough, the Baron's wife, Maman Bridget, or Mother Bridget in English, was often symbolized by a black rooster, and protected the gravestones in cemeteries that were marked with a cross. Mother Bridget is often described as having red hair and emerald green eyes, and as her name would suggest, she originated from Ireland, making her the only white deity that we see in voodoo. The Baron himself is often depicted as a tall, handsome black man, wearing a top hat and a black tuxedo. His face is white and quite skeletal looking. At times he has cotton plugs in each nostril, reflecting a common practice in Haitian burials. Along with his signature cane, Baron Samedi always has an abundance of cigars and alcohol. The Ghede family were traditionally seen as loud, rude and quite sexual. Many considered them to be a lot of fun, and the Baron was no different, being known for his dancing, obscenity, disruption and debauchery. So what exactly does Baron Samedi do, other than drink rum, smoke cigars and have sex? To start off, it's believed that no spirit could cross into the realm of the dead without being accepted by Baron Samedi. When an individual would die, Samedi would dig their grave, and then greet their soul once they had been buried, and eventually lead them to the underworld. Despite being a spirit associated with the dead, he was also seen as one that could give life and heal those in need. Many saw Baron Samedi as a symbol of reincarnation, not only with the power to give the dead new life, but to save those who were an inch away from dying. When it came to those who thought they had been a victim of a hex or some kind of black magic, they would look towards the Baron, as it was said if he refused to dig their grave, they could not die. The Baron could also cure any disease or wound known to mankind. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Baron had several different incarnations, and since they all have their own unique mannerisms and behavior, we can take a look at the differences between them. Baron Samedi was known for spending most of his time in between our realm and the invisible spirit realm. Baron Lacroix, which means Baron of the Cross, was seen as suave and sophisticated, not much of a party animal, but rather a philosopher of death. Baron Cimetière was the male guardian of the cemetery, along with his wife who we discussed earlier. What I found most interesting about this iteration was the belief that his horses would also wear a tuxedo and a top hat, but it doesn't quite stop there. They also demonstrated behavior quite similar to their master, smoking cigars and drinking fine liquor. Baron Criminel was one of the most feared loa. He was seen as a murderer condemned to death, and when he was invoked, he would provide swift judgment. This iteration of the Baron was the least pleasant to be around. When someone was possessed by Baron Criminel, they would shout obscenities and attempt to harm all of those around them. One of the ways to appease this particular spirit was with the sacrifice of black chickens by burning them alive, as it was believed the shrieking of the chickens when being burned appealed to his cruel nature. I do find Baron Samedi rather interesting, because he has a fairly large and important role, and you'd almost expect his personality to reflect that. But instead you have someone who's notorious for his outrageous behavior, constantly partying and drinking, but yet he still remains capable of performing his duty, and to me that feels very human-like. In the same way many of us work extremely hard, but then also party hard in our spare time, so does Baron Samedi. It's definitely been interesting.
Skeletons, painted faces, and lots of sweet treats. No, it's not Halloween. It's Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is a holiday celebrated in Mexico and some parts of Latin America that honors and commemorates death. It combines indigenous rituals with the Catholic holidays of All Souls and All Saints' Day. It's believed that the spirits of the dead are allowed to visit their families on October 31st and leave on November 2nd. Candles and flowers line the cemeteries and streets to guide loved ones to their homes. During that time, families and friends prepare food, make altars, and decorate gravestones to pay respects to the deceased. Parades are held and children eat candies to celebrate the lives once lived.
Annie, our journey begins. This is why I brought you here. I was not always this way. This is who I become. You must see what they did. My only sin was to love Caroline and to give her a daughter. They took everything from me, Annie. Let me go. My family.
You think you can get away from us?
My child. My life.
Where is it?
Be my witness. See how I became the reflection of their hatred. Their evil. See what it means to call me by that name.
Candyman. Candyman. Sweet to the sweet.
the Dead story.
I'm making sugar skulls. The sugar skull represents your loved one that has passed away. You decorate them with glitter, with feathers, colored foil, and you write the name of your deceased loved one on the forehead of it. And the reason that they're made of sugar is so that when you go to the gravesite, which is traditionally where you would place them, that the ants or the rain will eventually wash it all away, symbolizing the temporary status of life.